Good evening. This is CTV News. I'm Keisha Butts.
And I'm Gina Barty. Thanks for joining us tonight. Well, Maryland teachers need and want smaller class sizes and better pay. The state teachers union says there are core issues for educators. The union and lawmakers today advocated for several measures before the General Assembly. One would provide a $500 bonus to support staff such as teachers' aides and cafeteria workers for each of the next 2 fiscal years. Another bill would give educators a voice in class size.
Shortages and increased workload and unreasonable demands have been brewing for years and predate the pandemic. But like so many things, the pandemic exacerbated the situation. Education has always been a high burnout profession, with around half of new educators not making it past their 3rd year. For too long, the low wages of the support staff has made it hard for them to make ends meet and increase the likelihood of staffing shortages we are experiencing now. So we are calling on the legislature to pass these bills and the governor to sign them.
Supporters say the legislation is much needed and would help improve employee retention and help alleviate teacher burnout.
It's time to pass a family and medical leave law in Maryland, so says State Senate President Bill Ferguson. Democrats gathered in Annapolis this morning to throw their support to Senate Bill 275. It would give Maryland workers up to 12 weeks of paid time off. The leave would allow employees to care for a new baby or sick loved ones. Lawmakers say the pandemic has highlighted the need for family leave in Maryland.
For over 2 years, we have suffered through an unbelievable, unimaginable pandemic. Marylanders are still struggling to support their families. Now, more than ever, in this recovery, as we think about what the world looks like moving forward, Marylanders need to have the support they need to get through their toughest moments in the future.
Paid family leave should not be viewed as a privilege, but as something that is humane and just for Maryland residents, especially since we have gone through 2 years of COVID-19.
Marylanders should not and will not have to choose between being a parent or being with a loved one during their last days and whether or not they can put food on the table. We will fix that problem.
The bill has been cross-filed in the House of Delegates.
Well, here are the latest COVID-19 numbers for our area. The state health department has confirmed 661 new cases since yesterday. The positivity rate in Prince George's County has dipped to 2.31%. 14 Marylanders have died of COVID since yesterday for the first time since mid-November. Hospitalization has fallen below 500. That number is now 480. Meantime, a trial date is set for Baltimore's top prosecutor. A federal judge has scheduled Marilyn Mosby's trial date for May 2nd. A grand jury indicted Mosby on 2 counts of perjury and making false statements on a loan application. She has pleaded not guilty.
International news: Russian tanks roll on Ukraine, signaling the start of full-scale war with that former Soviet satellite. Russian troops bombarded Ukrainian cities and bases with airstrikes and shelling. Military experts are calling it Moscow's most aggressive action since the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979. President Joe Biden convened a meeting of the National Security Council to discuss new sanctions. Biden addressed the nation earlier this afternoon.
Today, I'm authorizing additional strong sanctions and new limitations on what can be exported to Russia. This is going to impose severe cost on the Russian economy, both immediately and over time. We will limit Russia's ability to do business in dollars, euros, pounds, and yen to be part of the global economy. In today's actions, we've now sanctioned Russian banks that together hold around $1 trillion in assets. We've cut off Russia's largest bank, a bank that holds more than 1/3 of Russia's banking assets by itself, cut it off from the U.S. financial system. And today, we're also blocking 4 more major banks. That means every asset they have in America will be frozen.
The UN Security Council is set to take up a resolution condemning Russia. Worldwide oil prices are past the $100 a barrel level. You're watching CTV News. I'm Keisha Butts. Coming up, part 3 of Patricia Vallone's Black History Month series on the Lakeland community. Stay tuned.
A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
As we learned over the past few days, Lakeland was a community of African Americans that went back generations, and that the community's rich history was upended by what was deemed urban renewal. In part 3 of our exclusive series for Black History Month, we take a look at present-day Lakeland.
My relatives are still, homes still here. My great-grandfather's house is still here. My grandfather's house is here. I'm living in my uncle's place.
Dwight Brooks is carrying on the family legacy. He's raised his own children in Lakeland. His son just bought a house, making him the 3rd generation in the community. But he recognizes that the neighborhood is changing.
Lots of times it has to do with location. Lots of times it has to do with color. I don't know how much consideration it would have been if it had been white to black, whether it would have been an intentional act or it would have been done for what they consider to be the greater good. I don't know.
Today, in this time of restorative justice, Lakeland is looking for something very basic: recognition. And that all starts with recognizing and honoring the history of the community, starting with the town's first African-American mayor.
You'll notice that there's a small plaque there. It was dedicated in 2002, and Mr. Lomax was lucky enough to be able to see that day. Unfortunately, I doubt that he would be particularly pleased at the way that the area is being kept up at this point. It's flourishing in poison ivy and other kinds of weeds.
Residents are fighting to return original names to their historic sites, including the first educational centers. Lakeland High School wasn't the only original building to lose its name. Since the early 1900s, there had always been a Lakeland Elementary School as well. But it was abolished and the name disappeared when Paint Branch Elementary School was constructed.
Why is it Paint Branch Elementary School and not Lakeland Elementary School or Edgar E. Smith Elementary School, in honor of the principal of Lakeland High School and Lakeland Elementary School from 1928 until 1966. Lakeland community members were required to give up their homes in order to build Paint Branch Elementary School. So when I come here, I see the fountain, but what gives me more concern is the name of the school. And the names of places are important.
But Maxine Gross says honoring heroes and places in the community is just a small part of what's needed to make Lakeland feel whole again. It needs to somehow reconnect its past to the present, a task that's not easy when your community has been chopped up into 3 parts.
In this instance, you really can't go between Berwyn or the rest of the city without going out to Route 1. This is Rhode Island Avenue. As you can see, it stops.
So there's a complete disconnect.
There's a complete disconnect.
And be sure to tune in tomorrow for the final segment of our Lakeland series as we take a look at what the future holds for residents.
Thanks, Patty. Still ahead, a popular grocery chain is opening in a new location. We'll tell you where after the break.
A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Thanks for staying with us. Maryland is gearing up to honor the life of abolitionist Harriet Tubman. Marylanders are encouraged to submit a creative video to the Harriet Tubman Women's History Month Women of Courage contest. Through the submission, residents of all ages will have an opportunity to show how Tubman has impacted and inspired their own lives. The contest will be part of the state celebration of the bicentennial birth date of Tubman next month.
And we want creativity. If you have a poem, if you have a song, if you have a collage, if you do, anything with your hands, you want to make music any kind of way, anything that is creative and authentic, we want people to participate. Because here's the thing, this is the bicentennial of Harriet Tubman's spirit. 200 years. Very few Americans can be celebrated as we celebrate Harriet Tubman. We know her in Maryland, although we still are learning about her. We know we want the rest of the country to also know.
The deadline to submit your video is March 4th. For more details, visit the website on your screen and click on News and Updates.
While it's not uncommon to own a company with Amazon, neither is it unusual to have 80 employees. However, doing so at just 23 years old is rare. Meet Jaron Kirkland. At 21 years old, he founded Duality Ventures. It delivers packages on behalf of Amazon to the Washington County area. This makes Kirkland one of the youngest business owners with the organization. Kirkland says he's proud of his work.
One of my managers on my station, he came up to me a couple of days ago, basically saying, he would be interested in doing the DSP program, and he was looking for a mentor, and he feels like I would be, a good mentor. And the thing about it is that he's 28 years old, so he's 5 years older than me. So I just have the opportunity to kind of inspire, as I've been inspired, motivate the people in my generation, the people who are kind of my peers to, do more for themselves.
Duality Ventures is part of Amazon's delivery service partner program. Meantime, legislation before the Maryland General Assembly aims to return $61 million to hospital patients who should have had free care. HB 694 is based on a 2021 study by the Maryland Health Services Cost Review Commission. It found that the nonprofit hospitals brought in millions through debt collection from patients who qualified for free care.
Hospitals are already paid to take care of low-income patients. Our state provides them with the funding to do so. So in this case, hospitals have really been paid twice. They've been paid by the state and then again paid by low-income families who should have gotten this free care. So the House bill really just sets out a process to identify the patients who overpaid when they should have gotten free care, to notify the patients that they overpaid, and to create a process once they receive the notification that they overpaid, they can contact the hospital via a website or phone, and the hospitals will pay them back the money that is owed to them.
A hearing on HB 694 is scheduled for next Wednesday, March 2nd at 1:30 p.m. in the House Health and Government Operations Committee.
Well, all 24 Maryland's local jurisdictions have basic requirements for their top health officers, but not so for the state's top health official. Now, in light of the pandemic, state senators are considering legislation that could change that. SB 243 would require Maryland's health secretary to meet certain professional qualifications.
If you're going to send the executive nominations a secretary of health, we're telling the governor, don't just send us a political hack or somebody that donated your campaign. You've got to have at least some criteria, some guidance. Ultimately, for this, the executive nominations of the Senate will scrutinize that category. But the fact is, we're not being that prescriptive. It is broad, just like we do, again, whether it's task forces, commissions, boards, even these other secretaries I outlined. We're not being that prescriptive, but it is a guidepost.
The bill is sponsored by Senator Feldman of Montgomery County.
A Clinton resident is competing for a prestigious crown. Kirsten Beverly is a finalist for the Miss Maryland USA pageant. Beverly is a graduate of Tennessee State and George Mason University. She currently works in public health. She has a passion for giving back as she founded Kirsten Cares, an organization that gives out dental kits to families. It's her very first pageant.
It's a go big or go home situation. I've always wanted to be in pageants and just haven't had the courage. And, I've always been the solid player in the background when it comes to community service, when it comes to just providing advice. And so I think this is just my time to, show up and show out, go big or go home. And, I didn't think my first pageant would be this big, but here we are.
Beverly works in the public health field. Meantime, she's seeking support in the pageant contest. For more information, visit GoFundMe and search for Kirsten Beverly.
Thanks for joining us. Good night.